The arsenic worked slowly, but Mary Ann Cotton liked it that way. She would sit by their bedsides, dabbing their fevered brows with cool cloths, earning the neighbors' admiration for her devoted nursing. They never suspected that the same hands offering comfort were the ones that had measured out death in careful doses, sprinkled like sugar across morning porridge. In Victorian England's grimy industrial north, where life was cheap and death a constant companion, no one thought to question why misfortune followed this particular widow like a faithful shadow. The winter of 1872 found Mary Ann tending to yet another dying child, young Charles Edward Cotton, her seventh-born son. As he writhed in gastric agony, the local parish doctor finally grew suspicious of the pattern that had haunted this woman's life. 21 deaths had followed in her wake: 3 husbands, a lover, 11 children, and several stepchildren. Each departure had been marked by the same symptoms, each corpse yielding the same insurance payout. The string of convenient deaths would eventually expose Britain's most prolific female serial killer, a woman whose story would challenge Victorian sensibilities and reveal the dark underbelly of 19th-century domestic life. Born Mary Ann Robson in 1832 to a skilled miner in North England's County Durham, she emerged from a childhood marked by coal dust and Methodist propriety. Her father's fatal fall down a mine shaft when she was 8 cast the first dark shadow across her life, though none could have predicted how deep that darkness would grow. By all accounts, young Mary Ann was intelligent and attractive, with a quiet demeanor that masked an iron will. She learned to read and write at the local Methodist school, developing a sophistication unusual for a working-class girl of her era. At age 20, she married William Mowbray, a colliery worker who would become her first victim. Their union produced 5 children, 4 of whom died in infancy from mysterious gastric fevers. When Mowbray himself succumbed to similar symptoms in 1865, Mary Ann collected her first insurance payout, a modest sum that nevertheless taught her a valuable lesson about the monetary value of death. Victorian Britain's burgeoning life insurance industry provided the perfect mechanism for Mary Ann's murderous enterprise. The Industrial Revolution had created a new market for working-class insurance policies, often sold door-to-door for pennies a week. These burial clubs were meant to prevent the indignity of a pauper's grave, but they inadvertently created opportunities for the unscrupulous. Mary Ann would eventually join multiple clubs for each intended victim, carefully timing her premiums before administering the fatal doses. Her method was as methodical as it was cruel. Arsenic trioxide, easily obtained as a common rat poison or laundry brightener, became her weapon of choice. The symptoms, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain, mimicked the gastric infections common in industrial towns with poor sanitation. Death came gradually, allowing her to perform the role of devoted nurse while systematically poisoning her victims. The performance earned her sympathy and deflected suspicion, as few could imagine that a mother would slowly torture her own children to death. Her second husband, George Ward, lasted barely a year before succumbing to the same mysterious ailment that had claimed the Mowbrays. James Robinson, her third husband, survived only because he grew suspicious when she insisted on taking out life insurance policies and threw her out. Frederick Cotton, her fourth and final husband, died in 1871, leaving her in charge of his children from a previous marriage, children who would soon join the growing list of victims. But it was the death of Charles Edward Cotton that finally brought her crimes to light. Dr. William Scattergood, the local physician, noticed the suspicious pattern of deaths and ordered an autopsy. The examination revealed lethal levels of arsenic, leading to Mary Ann's arrest in 1873. The subsequent investigation would uncover a trail of bodies stretching across northern England, each death marked by insurance claims and hasty relocations. The trial at Durham Assizes in March 1873 captivated the nation. Mary Ann Cotton represented everything Victorian society feared about uncontrolled female sexuality and ambition. A working-class woman who had married 4 times and taken multiple lovers challenged the period's rigid moral codes. The press dubbed her the Black Widow, drawing lurid parallels between her methods and the deadly spider's mating habits. The fact that she had murdered her own children particularly horrified a society that idealized maternal love. Throughout the proceedings, Mary Ann maintained her innocence with remarkable composure. She appeared in court dressed in black, her attractive features and quiet dignity at odds with the horrific nature of her crimes. The prosecution methodically laid out the pattern of deaths, insurance policies, and arsenic purchases. The defense attempted to argue that the deaths were natural, common in an era of high infant mortality and poor industrial working conditions. But the evidence was overwhelming. The psychological profile of Mary Ann Cotton continues to fascinate criminologists and historians. Was she a sociopath incapable of human attachment, or a product of her harsh environment? Some scholars argue that she exemplified a dark form of female empowerment, using the only tools available to a working-class woman to escape poverty. Others see her as a pure psychopath, deriving satisfaction from the prolonged suffering of her victims. The social context of her crimes reveals much about Victorian Britain. The Industrial Revolution had created new opportunities for social mobility alongside new forms of exploitation. The rise of life insurance, intended to provide security for working families, became a weapon in the hands of the murderous. The case exposed the vulnerability of children in a society that gave parents near absolute authority over their offspring. On March 24, 1873, Mary Ann Cotton was hanged at Durham County Jail. She went to the gallows without confession or visible remorse, maintaining her innocence until the end. The execution was botched, the drop was too short, and she took 3 minutes to die, her body twisting in a macabre dance that seemed fitting punishment for her crimes. Her last words were reportedly, "Heaven is my home," though like much about her life, this detail may be apocryphal. The true number of her victims remains uncertain. While 21 deaths were linked to her, some historians suspect the toll may be higher. Many bodies were never exhumed, and records from the period are incomplete. What is clear is that Mary Ann Cotton operated with impunity for over 2 decades, exploiting the blind spots in Victorian society and the trust placed in mothers and nurses. Her legacy influenced both criminal investigation and social reform. The case helped establish forensic toxicology as a crucial tool in criminal investigation as the detection of arsenic became more sophisticated. It also led to stricter regulations on the sale of poisons and reforms in the life insurance industry. The public's fascination with the case contributed to the emerging genre of true crime literature and influenced the development of detective fiction. Today, Mary Ann Cotton's story serves as a dark mirror to Victorian society, reflecting its hypocrisies and vulnerabilities. Her crimes expose the gap between the era's idealized domesticity and the harsh realities of working-class life. The methodical nature of her murders, carried out over decades while maintaining a facade of respectability, continues to challenge our understanding of evil and its capacity to hide behind a maternal smile.